The ocean looks peaceful from above, but beneath the waves, hidden in the darkness, a deadly war was being fought. During World War II, thousands of ships crossed the Atlantic carrying soldiers, weapons, food, and supplies. These ships were the lifeline connecting America and its allies to the battlefield, but waiting below the surface was a weapon designed to strike without warning, a machine that could disappear into the deep, a machine that could hunt silently for days, a machine that turned the Atlantic Ocean into one of the most dangerous battlefields in history. They were called U-boats, German submarines that became one of the greatest threats faced by the Allied forces during World War II. For the sailors trapped inside these steel monsters, every mission was a gamble between victory and death. They lived in darkness. They breathed recycled air. They listened to the sound of enemy ships above them, and every second underwater could be their last. This is the story of the U-boat war, the terrifying campaign that almost cut Britain off from a world, and the underwater battle that changed the course of World War II. Chapter 1. The birth of the U-boat. Before World War II, submarines were already considered powerful weapons. During World War I, Germany used submarines to attack Allied shipping and nearly brought Britain to its knees. These submarines were known as undersea boat, meaning undersea boats, shortened U-boats. After Germany lost World War I, the Treaty of Versailles placed heavy restrictions on the German military. Germany was forbidden from building submarines. But when Adolf Hitler came to power in the 1930s, Germany began secretly rebuilding its military. A new navy was created. The German Navy, known as the Kriegsmarine, started developing a new generation of submarines. The goal was simple: destroy enemy supply lines. Because Germany understood something important. Wars are not only won on battlefields. They are won through resources. An army without fuel, weapons, and food cannot fight, and the ocean was the perfect place to attack. Chapter 2. The man behind the U-boat strategy. The main architect behind Germany's submarine warfare was Admiral Karl Donitz. Donitz believed submarines could defeat a much larger navy through strategy. His idea was called the Wolfpack. Instead of one submarine attacking alone, groups of U-boats would spread across the ocean, searching for enemy convoys. Once a convoy was discovered, the submarines would secretly follow it. Then at night, they would attack together, like wolves surrounding their prey. A single U-boat could launch torpedoes and disappear before the enemy knew what happened. The attacks were terrifying. Merchant ships carrying supplies could suddenly explode in the middle of the ocean. Sailors had only minutes to escape. Sometimes, they had no chance at all. Chapter 3. The early success of the U-boats. When Germany invaded Poland in 1939, World War II officially began. Soon after, Britain declared war on Germany. Britain depended heavily on imported supplies, food, oil, weapons, raw materials. Almost everything came through the Atlantic Ocean. Germany saw an opportunity. If they could destroy enough supply ships, they could force Britain to surrender. The U-boat campaign began. At first, it was devastating. German submarines shocked the world. One of the earliest famous attacks happened in September 1939. The German U-boat U-29 attacked the British aircraft carrier HMS Courageous. The carrier was hit by torpedoes and sank. Hundreds of sailors were killed. The attack proved one thing: even powerful warships were vulnerable. Chapter 4. Life inside a U-boat. But behind every attack were the men who lived inside these machines. A U-boat was not comfortable. It was a small metal tube filled with equipment, fuel, weapons, and human beings. The space was extremely limited. Sailors slept wherever they could. Beds were placed near torpedoes. The air became terrible after long missions. The smell of diesel fuel, sweat, and machinery filled every corner. Fresh water was limited. Showers were rare. Food supplies slowly disappeared. And during combat, everything changed. The crew had to become completely silent. No unnecessary movement. No loud conversations. No mistakes. Because above them, the enemy was hunting. Chapter 5. The most dangerous moment. The depth charge. One of the biggest fears for U-boat crews was the depth charge. Allied ships used these explosive weapons to attack submarines underwater. A depth charge was dropped into the ocean. It sank to a certain depth, then exploded. When a depth charge detonated near a submarine, the pressure could crush the hull. Lights would go out. Pipes could break. Water could enter. The crew would sit in darkness waiting, not knowing if the next explosion would destroy them. Many U-boat sailors describe these moments as some of the most terrifying experiences of their lives. Chapter 6. The Battle of the Atlantic. The conflict between Allied forces and German U-boats became known as the Battle of the Atlantic. It was the longest continuous military campaign of World War II. The battle lasted from 1939 until Germany's surrender in 1945. At its center was a simple question. Could Germany cut off Britain from the outside world? If yes, the Allies could be weakened. If no, Germany's strategy would fail. The Atlantic became a deadly chess game. Germany created better submarines. The Allies developed new technology. Every advantage created a new counterattack. It was a battle of intelligence, engineering, and survival. Chapter 7. The Rise of the Wolfpacks. In the early years of World War II, German U-boats became one of the most feared weapons on Earth. But their greatest strength was not just the submarine itself. It was the strategy behind it. Admiral Karl Donitz understood that a single submarine could only do limited damage, but a group of submarines working together could become a deadly force. This was the birth of the legendary Wolfpack strategy. The idea was simple. Several U-boats would patrol different areas of the Atlantic. They would remain hidden beneath the waves, waiting. If one submarine spotted an enemy convoy, it would send a coded message back to headquarters. Then other U-boats would rush toward the location. They would surround the convoy like wolves surrounding their prey. During the day, they often stayed underwater, but at night, they attacked on the surface. Because surprisingly, early U-boats were often faster above water than below it. The darkness gave them an advantage. A convoy commander might look out into the ocean and see nothing. Then suddenly, a torpedo would cut through the water. Seconds later, a ship would explode. The ocean would become chaos. Chapter 8. The U-boat Aces. Some U-boat commanders became legends inside the German Navy. One of the most famous was Otto Kretschmer. Known as one of Germany's most successful submarine commanders, he became famous for his calm leadership and tactical skills. His nickname was the Silent Otto. Unlike some commanders who attacked aggressively, Kretschmer preferred patience. He studied enemy movements. He waited for the perfect moment. Then he attacked. Another famous commander was Gunther Prien. He became famous after a daring mission in 1939 when a submarine, U-47, entered the British naval base at Scapa Flow. Inside the protected harbor, he launched a surprise attack and sank the battleship HMS Royal Oak. The mission became one of the most famous U-boat operations of the war. To Germany, these commanders became heroes, but for Allied sailors, they represented a terrifying threat hiding beneath the ocean. Chapter 9. America enters the war. For the first years of World War II, the United States was not officially involved in the European conflict, but America was supporting the Allies by sending supplies across the Atlantic. Ships carrying weapons, food, and equipment became essential. Germany knew these shipments were helping Britain survive. Then, on December 7, 1941, everything changed. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. The United States entered World War II. And suddenly, the Atlantic War became even bigger. Germany declared war on the United States. Now American ships were directly involved. German U-boats moved closer to the American coastline. And what happened next became known as the Second Happy Time. Chapter 10. Operation Drumbeat. In early 1942, German U-boats launched attacks along the American East Coast. German commanders discovered that American coastal defenses were not fully prepared. Many cities continued normal nighttime activities. Ships traveled without protection. Lights from coastal towns made targets easy to see. For U-boat crews, it was a perfect opportunity. Submarines appeared near American waters. They attacked tankers and cargo ships carrying valuable supplies. One by one, ships disappeared. The Americans were shocked. The war that seemed far away had reached their own coastline. During this period, U-boats sank hundreds of ships. The Atlantic Ocean became a battlefield stretching from Europe to North America. Chapter 11. The Human Cost. Behind the numbers were real people. Every sinking ship meant sailors fighting for survival. Many merchant sailors were civilians. They were not soldiers. They were ordinary people transporting supplies through a dangerous ocean. When a ship was hit, the crew had to abandon it quickly. Sometimes lifeboats were unavailable. Sometimes rescue never came. The Atlantic was enormous. A person could disappear into the waves and never be found. The U-boat war was not just a battle between machines. It was a battle involving thousands of lives. Chapter 12. Allied Counterattack. But the Allies were learning. At first, German U-boats seemed unstoppable. But Britain and America began developing new methods to fight back. One major improvement was the convoy system. Instead of ships traveling alone, groups of ships traveled together. They were protected by warships called escorts. Destroyers followed alongside the convoy. Their mission: find the submarines, protect the ships, and destroy the U-boats. The Allies also improved radar technology. Radar allowed ships and aircraft to detect enemy submarines, especially when they surfaced. Aircraft patrols became more effective. Long-range bombers could now search wider areas of the ocean. The hidden hunters were becoming the hunted. Chapter 13. The Cold War. But the battle was not only fought on the ocean. It was also fought through information. German U-boats communicated using a complex encryption machine called Enigma. The machine created coded messages that were extremely difficult to read. Germany believed their communications were secure, but Allied codebreakers worked constantly to break the system. At places like Bletchley Park in Britain, mathematicians and intelligence experts analyzed thousands of messages. Their work helped the Allies understand German plans. Knowing where U-boats were operating gave Allied forces a major advantage. The war beneath the waves was also a war of secrets. Chapter 14. The New Technology. World War II was a race of innovation. Germany developed improved submarines. The famous Type 7 U-boat became the backbone of the German submarine fleet. Later, Germany developed advanced designs like the Type XXI. These submarines were far ahead of their time. They were faster underwater. They could stay submerged longer. They had improved technology. But by the time they entered service, Germany was already losing the war. The Allies had adapted. The advantage had shifted. Chapter 15. The Turning Point of the Atlantic. By 1943, the Battle of the Atlantic reached a critical moment. For years, Germany had been sinking Allied ships faster than they could replace them. But now the situation changed. The Allies produced more ships. They improved escort protection. They used better aircraft. They tracked submarines more effectively. German U-boats started suffering heavy losses. Many submarine crews never returned from missions. The same ocean that once gave them protection became their graveyard. Chapter 16. The ocean turns against the U-boats. For years, German U-boats had controlled the darkness of the Atlantic. They were the hunters. Allied ships were the prey. But by 1943, the balance of power was beginning to change. The Allies had learned from every attack, every ship lost, every sailor killed, every mistake. They created new strategies, new weapons, and new technology designed to defeat the submarines hiding beneath the waves. The U-boats were no longer invisible. The ocean that once protected them was becoming a battlefield where they could be detected at any moment. Chapter 17. The hunters become the hunted. One of the biggest improvements made by the Allies was air patrol. At the beginning of the war, U-boats were safest in areas far from land because aircraft could not reach them. But advances in aviation changed everything. Long-range aircraft could now cover massive sections of the Atlantic. These aircraft carried bombs and depth charges. They searched for the tiny signs of submarines. A shadow beneath the water. A disturbance on the surface. A submarine charging its batteries. When a U-boat surfaced, it was no longer alone in the ocean. It was exposed, and sometimes a few seconds was all the Allies needed. Chapter 18. the deadly escort carriers. Another major development was the introduction of escort carriers. These were smaller aircraft carriers designed to protect convoys. They carried fighter planes and anti-submarine aircraft. Before this technology existed, U-boats could attack ships and escape into areas where aircraft could not follow. But now, the Allies could bring aircraft protection directly into the middle of the Atlantic. For German submarines, this was a nightmare. The ocean became filled with eyes searching from above. Chapter 19. The Battle of the Black Pit. The middle of the Atlantic was once called the Black Pit. It was an area where Allied convoys had little or no air protection. German submarines attacked heavily in this region. Convoys were vulnerable. Ships disappeared. Losses increased. But when Allied aircraft finally gained the ability to cover this area, the situation changed dramatically. The Black Pit was no longer safe for U-boats. The advantage that Germany had enjoyed for years was disappearing. Chapter 20. The Role of Sonar. One of the most important technologies used against submarines was sonar. Sonar allowed ships to detect objects underwater by sending sound waves through the ocean. When those waves hit an object, they returned information about its location. For a submarine hiding beneath the waves, this was terrifying. The ocean was no longer silent. Every movement could reveal their position. Every mistake could bring an attack. Chapter 21. The Sinking of U-505. One of the most famous American captures of a German U-boat happened in 1944. The submarine was called U-505. It was discovered by an American anti-submarine group near the coast of Africa. The task force attacked. The U-boat was damaged and forced to surface. Instead of destroying it, American sailors decided to capture it. They boarded the submarine while it was still dangerous. They secured the vessel and recovered important German technology and documents. The capture of U-505 was extremely valuable. It gave the Allies access to intelligence that helped them understand German submarine operations. Today, U-505 is preserved as a historic artifact. It remains one of the most famous captured submarines in history. Chapter 22. Inside a U-boat during the final years. By the later years of the war, life inside a U-boat became even more dangerous. Crews knew the chances of survival were decreasing. New Allied technology meant every mission could become their last. A submarine leaving port might never return. The sailors were surrounded by danger. Above them, enemy ships, aircraft, depth charges. Below them, the crushing pressure of the ocean. Inside, fear, exhaustion, and uncertainty. The psychological pressure was enormous. Many sailors spent weeks underwater with no sunlight, no fresh air, no communication with the outside world. Chapter 23. Germany's Last Hope. As Germany began losing the war, Hitler demanded new solutions. German engineers developed advanced submarines. The Type XXI U-boat was revolutionary. Unlike earlier submarines, it was designed mainly for underwater operation. It was faster, quieter, more advanced. It could stay submerged much longer. Many historians consider it one of the most advanced submarines of World War II. But there was one major problem. It arrived too late. Germany was already collapsing. Factories were being destroyed. Resources were limited. The Allies were advancing from every direction. The new submarines could not change the outcome. Chapter 24. The Final U-Boat Missions. In 1945, Germany was near defeat. The Allied armies were approaching from the east and west. Cities were destroyed. The German military was collapsing. But some U-boats continued fighting. Their crews were ordered to continue operations. Some commanders refused. Others followed orders. The final months of the U-boat war were chaotic. Many submarines surrendered. Some were destroyed. Others disappeared forever beneath the ocean. When Germany finally surrendered in May 1945, the U-boat campaign came to an end. Chapter 25. The Numbers Behind the War. The U-boat campaign was one of the largest naval conflicts in history. Germany built more than 1,000 submarines during World War II. Thousands of German sailors served inside them. Many never returned. The Allies also suffered enormous losses. Hundreds of ships were sunk. Thousands of sailors died. The Atlantic Ocean became a battlefield where both sides paid a terrible price. Chapter 26. Why the U-Boat War Mattered. The U-boat campaign was not just about sinking ships. It was about controlling the future of the war. If Germany had successfully cut Britain's supply lines, the outcome of World War II could have been very different. America's ability to send troops and supplies to Europe depended on the Atlantic remaining open. The survival of Allied forces depended on those supply routes. The U-boat war was a battle for survival. Chapter 27. The Legacy of U-Boats. After World War II ended, the world looked differently at submarine warfare. The technology created during this era influenced future naval development. Modern submarines became faster, more powerful, and capable of missions far beyond what World War II engineers imagined. But the story of the U-boats also remains a reminder of the human cost of war. Behind every submarine was a crew. Behind every sinking ship was a family waiting at home. The Atlantic was not just a battlefield. It was a place where thousands of people fought, suffered, and died. Chapter 28. The End of the U-Boat Era. In the final days of World War II, Germany was falling apart. The once powerful military machine that had conquered much of Europe was now surrounded. Allied armies were moving closer. German cities were burning. Factories were destroyed. And the ocean war that had continued for nearly 6 years was reaching its final chapter. The U-boats that once terrified the Atlantic were now fighting a losing battle. Many submarines were trapped in ports. Others were destroyed before they could even begin missions. The hunters had become the hunted. Chapter 29. Operation Deadlight. After Germany surrendered in 1945, the Allies captured hundreds of German U-boats. The question became, what should happen to them? Many of these submarines were considered dangerous military weapons. The Allies decided that most captured U-boats would be destroyed. This led to Operation Deadlight. Hundreds of surrendered German submarines were taken out into the ocean and sunk. It was a final chapter of the U-boat fleet. The machines that once dominated the Atlantic were sent to the bottom of the sea, a powerful symbol of the end of Nazi Germany's naval ambitions. Chapter 30. The Mystery of the Lost U-Boats. Even today, many U-boats remain missing. Some disappeared during missions and were never found. The ocean keeps their secrets. For decades, historians search for answers. Where did they sink? What happened to their crews? Did they encounter enemy ships? Did mechanical failures destroy them? The deep ocean is unforgiving. Many submarines became underwater graves. Their stories were frozen beneath the waves. Chapter 31. The Final Voyage of U-Boat Crews. For the men inside these submarines, every mission carried uncertainty. A sailor could leave a German port one day and never see land again. They entered a world where survival depended on teamwork. One mistake could kill everyone. A small mechanical failure, a broken valve, a wrong calculation, a delayed dive. The ocean gave no second chances. Many U-boat crews showed extreme courage under impossible conditions. But courage did not always guarantee survival. The Atlantic was larger and more powerful than any machine humans created. Chapter 32. The Impact on the United States. For Americans, the U-boat war became one of the first direct experiences of the global conflict reaching their own waters. Before World War II, many Americans believed the ocean protected them. But German submarines proved that modern warfare had changed. Distance was no longer enough for safety. Technology had connected every battlefield. The attacks near American shores showed the importance of naval defense and intelligence. The lessons learned during the Atlantic campaign influenced American military strategy for decades. Chapter 33. From U-boats to modern submarines. The technology developed during World War II changed submarine design forever. After the war, nations studied captured German submarines. The ideas behind advanced U-boats influenced future submarine development. The Cold War created a new underwater competition. Submarines became larger, faster, and far more powerful. Modern nuclear submarines can travel thousands of miles underwater. They can remain submerged for months. They carry technology that World War II submarine crews could never have imagined, but the basic idea remains the same. A hidden force beneath the waves. Chapter 34. The Lessons of the Atlantic War. The Battle of the Atlantic teaches several important lessons. The first, technology can change warfare. At the beginning of the war, U-boats seemed unstoppable, but innovation created new ways to fight them. The second, information matters. Breaking enemy communication codes became just as important as winning battles. The third, wars are not only fought by weapons, they are fought by people. The sailors inside submarines, the crews aboard merchant ships, the engineers building new technology, the families waiting at home. Every person became part of the conflict. Chapter 35. The Ocean Remembers. Today, the Atlantic Ocean is peaceful. Ships cross the same waters where some of the deadliest battles of World War II happened. But beneath the waves, thousands of stories remain. Lost submarines, sunken ships, memories of sailors who never returned. The ocean has preserved the history of a war fought in darkness. A war where enemies rarely saw each other. A war where a hidden submarine could change history with one attack. Final ending, cinematic style. They were machines built from steel, but inside them were human beings. Men who lived in darkness. Men who faced impossible odds. Men who entered the ocean knowing they might never return. The U-boats of World War II changed naval warfare forever. They showed the world the power of the hidden attack and the danger of technology used during war. For years, they hunted beneath the waves, silent, invisible, waiting. But eventually, the world adapted. The hunters were defeated, and the Atlantic remained open. The story of the U-boats is not only a story of submarines. It is a story of strategy, innovation, fear, courage, and the human cost of war. Because beneath the waves, history is still waiting to be discovered. If you enjoyed this journey through one of the most intense battles of World War II, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more untold stories from history, forgotten battles, and events that changed the world. Hit the notification bell so you never miss our next documentary, because history is full of stories that are waiting to be uncovered.